Hi everyone, Ed from Bobil Vans here and welcome to another product release video. In this video we're going to be installing our hydronic water heater into the 7.5 ton X-Kazoo car delivery vehicle, which is absolutely massive. Customer wants to live in the van eventually, so a good heating and hot water system isn't essential, but the hydronic heater we're going to be fitting today has got a couple of differences from the one that we currently sell. So this one's going to be plumbed into the engine coolant system. What that means is that you can use the heater as an engine preheater. Also, when he's driving, the waste heat from the engine will heat the calorifier. But there's a couple of little features about our hydronic system which is a little bit different from the others on the market. So let's see if we can get it in the workshop and get cracking.
Our standard hydronic heater kit has the coolant flowing from the coolant tank to the heater, around a loop to the blower boxes and the calorifier before returning to the coolant tank. This works well as a standalone system, however we want to integrate engine preheating and being able to use heat from the engine to heat the calorifier when driving. One solution to this is to put everything on a big loop so that the coolant travels from the engine through the preheater, blower boxes and calorifier before returning to the engine. The problem with this is that every time you want to heat the water or the van, you also have to heat the engine up, which can take half an hour, and waiting half an hour for a heater to come on isn't much fun when it's 5 degrees. You will also lose a huge amount of heat if you keep the heater on overnight if it's cold, as the engine will be hot and the heat will just evaporate. On the very cold nights, you may even find the heater won't provide the required heat to keep the vehicle at the right temperature. The Bobil solution is to add a bypass valve to the loop, which is controlled by the slave board. This gives the coolant a shortcut, so when you want to just heat the van or the water, or when the water is hot and you want to drive, the valve opens, which allows the coolant to flow through it. However, when you want to preheat the engine, the valve closes and effectively forms a big coolant loop. The beauty of the valve is that it's really simple and effective, and also if the valve fails for whatever reason, there won't be any effect on the engine, coolant will still be pumped around as normal, and everything will still function.
This is a quick shot inside the vehicle. As you can see, there's quite a lot of space. The bathroom is going to be down the other end, but there's quite a lot of stuff in here because the customer's still building the vehicle. So I think what we're going to do is build everything on a wooden board, and then the customer can sort of extend the pipes and cables when he gets to that part of the build. I've just taken off the side skirt on this side of the vehicle and you can see how much space we've got, and we never have this much space when we install anything. So it's not an install video, this one, so we're just going to go ahead and get everything mounted. We'll probably put it up on the other side, but we just wanted to show you the luxury of space. I think we've come up with a vague plan of where everything's going to go. It's all going to be on the driver's side, just kind of behind the driver's seat. We showed you the other side of the vehicle where there's loads of space. We've got the same on this side. So we're just going to mount the heater to the ladder chassis of the van, pump on the other side. All the pipes then go off to the engine underneath and then return. So it should be relatively straightforward. We'll get everything installed and then we'll just run through how all the pipes are fitted, where they go, and what they all do.
So the coolant heater is now fitted. You can see the air intake there facing backwards, so nothing can get into it. The exhaust comes forwards through the silencer and then turns and goes out towards the back of the van. The fuel pump's just the other side of the ladder chassis. You can just about see the fuel line going across the bottom of the van. So now we can get everything else piped up and finish the install. Just show you here the diverter valve. This is our motorised ball valve that allows the coolant to bypass either the leisure circuit or the engine circuit. You can see we've got these nice big bends on the pipes. We prefer to do this rather than have any elbows in there, just because elbows can be another leak point. So if you can get away with one smooth bend on the coolant pipe, that's normally better.
So the first bit of the install went well. We've got the hydronic heater installed underneath and we've got the pipes up into the engine bay. The thing to do now is to connect those pipes into the engine coolant so we can benefit from the preheating and the calorifier heating. So this bit's always a little bit tricky. We essentially have to find the point in which the pipes go through the bulkhead into the heat exchanger that would normally heat the cab when you're driving the vehicle. And we put two elbows on and then we connect those to the pipes we've run to the hydronic heater and they run down to the bypass valve. So we'll find those, put some elbows on and then get it all fitted. Basically the pipes that we're trying to get to are at the back there. I'll try and shine a torch. Those two that go to the bulkhead. So we'll be cutting into one of those and then sending the pipes down to the diverter valve. Now, one thing we don't know is the direction of the coolant. So what we'll do, we'll cut the pipe, extend them, and then we'll start the engine and see which way it spurts.
So to make the installation a little easier, we already put the elbows and the clips on the pipes from the diverter valve. So we just have to cut the vehicle pipe, push the 2 elbows into the pipes, put the clips on, and we're all ready to go.
I'm not going to pretend that was a nice job, but these elbows have been inserted into where this pipe is, and the coolant pipes then disappear down underneath the engine, and they're going to go off to our diverter valve. So we've got these pipes connected up to the engine. Now this bit could be avoided if you know which way around the coolant's going. If your van has a run-on pump, which can look a bit like this, you know that the coolant goes that way and comes out this way, so you'll be able to follow that around, and that will tell you which way around the coolant's going. This van doesn't have one, or at least I can't see one, so what we do, Jim is going to start the engine, and then we'll see. Oh, there we go. So we know the coolant comes out of this one. So that'll help us to pipe up the rest of the system. We're back under the van. Everything is now fitted. So I'm just going to run you through what happens in all the different situations and the position of the valve. So we've got our 2 coolant lines from the engine. When you're driving and the calorifier is cold, your coolant is going to come down here. The valve is going to close. It sends the coolant through the coolant pump. Now this pump is actually going to run as well, just to help the engine out a little bit. Back down through here into the van, and that's going to run through the calorifier at the blow box. It's going to come back through here on this round bit. Because they're still closed, it's then going to go back to the engine on the return line. Likewise, if we're using this as a preheater, same situation. The preheater is going to run, coolant pump is going to run, and that essentially is going to close the valve and send the hot coolant through the calorifier and blow box still, but essentially straight back through the engine and back on the return. So that'll preheat the engine. But when we're not doing either of those things, the valve is going to be open. And if we're just running the engine and the calorifier is hot, the coolant comes down this pipe, straight through the bypass, back up again. If we're just running the leisure side, our pump runs, coolant comes round here, through the leisure side, back through here, and straight back through the valve and through the coolant pump. So the next stage is to actually get coolant into the system. So we're going to run the engine, let the water pump the coolant through the system, and then we can start it all up. Ooh. So this is what we've installed for the customer: 25 litre calorifier, 2 double blower boxes, and all the electronics all wired in and ready to go. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed that there's 2 double blower boxes here, and we typically only offer a double and a single. The reason for that is for any regular 3.5 ton van conversion, a double blower box is probably sufficient. You can have an extra single one if you want to sort of spread the heat out a little bit more, but given that this is a 7.5 ton truck, and it's absolutely massive, we've got the 2 doubles. You can, in theory, run any number of blower boxes off the slave board. You just have to wire it a different way. So if this is something you want to do, just get in touch with us and we can let you know how to do it. Right, and we should fire everything up. Here we are. Just going to the smart controller. Again, we've got the same menus as before. A couple of different ones. So this preheating menu. This says AC preheating. What that means is we're going to use the heat from the calorifier. Like if you were plugged in, you could take that heat and essentially dump it into the engine as a preheater. But what we're going to do is change that to diesel preheating. There we go, preheat source diesel heater, and we can change the preheat time as well. But I think just for now, what we'll do is we'll run the air and water heating routine just to get some heat into the vehicle, and then we'll have a look at the pipes at the front of the engine and just see how much heat is within the pipes in the vehicle and how much is actually being transferred to the engine. There we are. Just heard the pump boot up, so let's give it a minute and see what happens. So the heater's been running for a couple of minutes now, and you can see if I just pan around to the diverter valve, you can see that the point to see if my hammer comes up. You can see that these pipes here, coming in and out of the diverter valve, are really, really hot. The ones that go off to the engine really haven't got a lot of heat in between. A little bit more than ambient, but generally all of the heat is staying within the leisure loop, which is exactly what we want. There we are inside. The fans have just come on. means we've got 55 degrees at least in the pipes, lots of heat being extracted from these blower boxes, and it's heating the vehicle up nicely. So this is a shot into the engine bay after about 15 minutes of the heater running. There's almost no heat coming up those pipes. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to change the controller to preheating. So you can see there that the fans have just gone off. But what's happened is that valve has changed position. And what we should see now is the heat travelling up those pipes and into the engine bay. So let's just wait a minute. We should start seeing that pumping around. There we go. You can see the colour change on that elbow, and off that heat goes into the engine. So even after 10-20 seconds, significant difference in the temperature. So let's leave this for 10 minutes and we'll see how warm the engine gets.
So we're just going to drop the imaging camera into the engine bay. It's quite tricky because, like I said before, it's quite busy in there. But you can see that the surface of the engine, even after a couple of minutes, about 7 or 8 minutes now, is really starting to get some heat into it. So that just shows our diesel heat preheater is doing exactly what we want it to do, transferring all of that lovely heat into the engine. So when we come to start it, our blowers will be nice and hot and it will start really, really easily. So if we go back to the smart controller, we can go to the preheating screen. That'll tell us the temperature of the engine for the sensor that we put on the pipe earlier. So that's sitting at 43 degrees. You can see the off timer. So the diesel preheating is timed, which you can set in one of the submenus up to half an hour. But if we go back to the air and water heating, we can just flick straight between the routines, so we can switch that on. We'd hear the fans come on, and that will go back to heating the vehicle space and stop the preheating. The fans won't come on until the coolant hits 55 degrees, so we won't see anything yet. If we just go and switch this off, diesel heater will start to shut down. If we go and look at the push control, you'll see that will start to flash in a second. There we go. The red and blue flashes there mean that the heater's gone into its shutdown mode. And there we go. Engine warm, vehicle warm, water warm. System's working as expected.
We hope that's been a little interesting overview of this new product. We think it's a big step forward for the Hydronic because it's about the same price, because you do lose the coolant tank, you replace it with the valve, but the parts are sort of similar price, so not too dissimilar, but you do gain the engine preheating. You actually gain more space in the van because you don't have to find space for the coolant tank. Your coolant's automatically flushed out every time you have a coolant change as part of the vehicle service. The calorifier is heated when you're driving, so there's loads of benefits. One thing to bear in mind when you're looking at fitting this is just make sure that you're confident with vehicle mechanics, you're confident with engines, and you've got the facilities to work on vehicles. It does involve scrabbling around in the engine bay, cutting coolant pipes, all that stuff. So just make sure that you're happy with that. This is a soft launch, so it's not available on the website. If you do want to purchase this, please give us a call. We can talk you through it. Just make sure it's the right product for you, because every time you're cutting into the engine or doing anything to the engine, if something does go wrong on the install, you are potentially affecting the vehicle. So we obviously install these, and some of our partners will install them as well. So don't be afraid to get it installed professionally if you do think it's something you want, but it's not something you want to do yourself. This system will also tie in with the underfloor heating. So again, if that's something you're interested in, then just let us know. And then you can have one heater that will do engine heating, calorifier heating, air heating, and underfloor heating, water heating, and everything heating. So, hope that's been interesting. Any questions or comments, leave them below, or drop us an email, or just give us a call. Anyway, we'll see you on the next video.